Hello, this is Keith All, and today's tutorial is going to be on how we could change a color image into a black and white image using HTML and CSS. Now, right here, what I'm looking at, this is what is going to happen. So whenever I hover over a picture, it's going to turn it to black and white. And see how you can see that it turns it to black and white. If I take it off, it's going to change it back to color. Now I have the transition property set to I think 10 seconds, so it slowly changes the image to black and white. As you can see, that's what's happening, and does the same thing for this image over to black and white. So let's look at the HTML code and the CSS file to see how this is happening. So first of all, let's go to the HTML, which is over here to the right. I'm just basically using a body tag and using the image tag with the source attribute. And all it's doing is pointing to what images that are going to be displayed over in this area in the container. So let's now look at the CSS file and let's see how we're making all this happening. So right now the body element or tag is basically going to be styled as follows. So right now, what I'm going to be doing is basically setting the margins and padding to 0. The display property, I'm setting the flex, which basically means that it's going to center my container on the web page. And within that container, I'm going to justify the content, which are going to be the images. I'm going to center it. And also align the items to be centered also. So basically the center and justify content centering is going to center it left to right basically, and the align items are going to center it. I believe what that does is center it vertically within that container. The height, I'm setting it to 100 pixels, and the background color, which is what you see here, the black, that's the background of the page itself. Now let's see what we're doing with the image. So the transition property, again, what that does, it's the time that it will take to change the image from color to black and white. So right now, I know in the beginning of the video I said 10 seconds, but I actually am using 5 seconds. So basically when I hover over it, it's going to take about 5 seconds for it to completely change to black and white. So if I go ahead and change this to 0.5 seconds, watch what happens. See how fast it changes? The transition changes almost instantly to black and white. So that's how that works. The max width is basically the maximum width of the image within the container. So if I go ahead and change it to, let's say, watch what happens. I'm going to change this to 250 and see how it changes. The width of everything, 400. That's what that does. The margin here has 2 values. Now the margin property, you can pass along 4 different values, but here I'm stating that when I pass 2 values to the margin property, basically the first one here, the top and bottom margins will be set to 0 pixels, and the right and left margins will be set to 10 pixels. So let's see how this changes. See how it closes the gap between each image? So if I change it to 5, this gap is a little bit larger. If I change it to 10, it gets even larger. So that's what that does. And the margin property basically creates space around your elements. Now let's go over to the last item here. And basically what this is I'm using the hover selector for the image tag within the HTML file. So basically what that means, whenever it detects, whenever I hover over the image, that means the hover selector will start working, will get triggered. And basically what I'm doing with it, so when it triggers the hover function, basically, I'm going to use the filter property. And basically what that does, it defines the visual effects to an element. And so what I'm passing, the filter property, I'm passing two different functions, the grayscale function and the contrast function. The grayscale function converts the image to a grayscale. And the lower the number, let's just say, let's do this to be 0. Just a second. And see how it's not as black and white when I do that. So let's go back to 1 and see what it does. See, it's more black and white when I change that. So if I increase it to maybe 5, let's see what happens. It gets even more black and white, I believe. Now the contrast, let's set this to 0 first. See what it does? It almost makes it completely gray. Let's go to 2. Let's see what it does here. Let's go back to 6, the original value, and see how it affects the image by completely making it more black and white. So basically that is how you can take a color image and make it black and white using HTML and CSS. Thanks again for stopping by. I appreciate your viewership. Please like the video and subscribe to my channel so you can always get updated when I upload new videos. Thanks again for stopping by, and I'll see you on the next video.